Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
We are going to continue to challenge gender stereotypes in Little Women today. Remember, Little Women is our featured novel in our unit on literature this month, written by Louisa May Alcott. She's an American writer from New England, and she lived around the time of the American Civil War. And we talked about the novel Little Women, but we also found out, surprisingly, that she really didn't want to write that novel. She just kind of did it because her publisher wanted her to. I guess she was interested in other things.
She also followed up Little Women with another book about the girls named Joe's Boys.
Okay.
So if you're interested, you should read that too. I recommend both of them. They're pretty fun. And I don't think they're too difficult. I think they would be definitely something that our listeners could read and enjoy and not have to look up every word. Sometimes if you try to read a novel that's way too difficult, you just get frustrated. So don't do that.
Yeah, and if you're lucky, you could try to read an electronic version of these novels. I'm sure your smartphone probably has the function of looking up a word in the dictionary at the tap of a finger.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, hopefully your English reading ability as well as your writing and listening and speaking abilities can all improve by leaps and bounds. And also you can learn a little thing or two about the world of literature. So we're going to talk about some of the themes and ideas in Little Women today. So let's get to it. Let's read the entire contents of our lesson right now.
Written during the period of first wave feminism, Little Women emphasizes the advances being made in women's social status and the conflict that arose because of them. Alcott uses each sister to show the different ways women dealt with the changes. Meg falls into line with societal expectations of the day and marries young. Similarly, Beth spends her short life in service to her family. Both Joe and Amy, however, search for a sense of individuality before settling down to the customary life that's expected of them. Alcott's presentation of these models of womanhood isn't to suggest that one is preferable to the others, but rather to illustrate that conformity may have been more realistic for women of the time. Alcott then delves even deeper into the world of gender archetypes. With Jo, she explores the idea that not all women desire to live for and by their husband's means. Jo's move to New York is not just for work, but also serves as an escape from Laurie's affections and the prospect of an unwanted marriage. Likewise, Laurie is a far cry from a typical 19th century man. For one thing, he chooses a feminine nickname for himself, rather than using his more masculine name, Theodore. For another, his pursuit of music, a culturally feminine vocation at the time, shows that it wasn't just women going against convention. As the novel's strongest characters, Jo and Laurie are Alcott's way of demonstrating that gender stereotypes should be challenged and that societal change was imminent. Alcott also accentuates the value of virtue over riches. Alcott's own impoverished childhood taught her that being happy with one's lot in life is more desirable than endlessly yearning for material wealth. By marrying her characters for love instead of money, Alcott makes it clear that paying attention to one's inner self is much more important than one's personal fortune.
Okay, everybody, it's now time to discuss the entire contents of our lesson for today. Again, we are challenging those gender stereotypes in the novel Little Women. Now, written during the period of first wave feminism, Little Women emphasizes the advances being made in women's social status and also the conflict that arose because of them. So if you talk about feminism, you're talking about a movement that is supposed to bring about improvements in the lives of women, for example, or to examine gender roles for both genders as well. Feminism, I guess, nowadays is defined in 3 waves. First wave, second wave, and third wave. This was the first one, first wave feminism. That's when women were trying to have some basic rights like being able to own property and go to university and to vote and stuff like that. Second wave feminism was during the 60s and 70s, and then third wave feminism is what we have now.
Okay, guys, so it emphasizes the advances or the progress. Progress is non-count, but if you talk about advances, you can make it countable. The advances being made in women's social status and the conflict or the disagreements that arose or happened because of them. Now, Alcott uses each sister, remember there were 4 of them, to show the different ways that women dealt with the changes. So she's using these sisters to demonstrate things in different ways because they all had different personalities, if you recall. Now, Meg, she was the one who had the twins, remember? She got married. First, she falls into line with societal expectations of the day and marries young. Yeah, back in those days, they probably got married at 15, 16 years old. Sometimes even 14, which is scary. But they got married young. Most of them had an elementary school education only. But, you know, they didn't expect to have more because they couldn't work, right? They didn't work outside the house. They were just moms. So if you fall into line with something, guys, it means you do as duty requires. So you don't try to do anything different. You don't fight against what you're being told to do. You just obey. You fall into line with. It gives you the image of soldiers walking together with steps that are in synchronization. Soldiers have to obey. They can't just do what they want or they get in big trouble. So fall into line with just means you do what you're told.
Exactly, and you don't disobey, you don't question things,
No.
You just do as you're told. She's supposed to fall into line with societal expectations. Societal just means having to do with society, the role you're supposed to play as a woman in society, being a housewife, raising children, cooking the food, cleaning the house, whatever it was. And so she does as she is told, and she marries young, maybe when she was 16, 17, something like that, and started having kids right away. Now, similarly, Beth spends her short life in service to her family. Okay, this is similar, except remember, Beth is ill. She's sick, and she died pretty early. She died pretty young, so she basically spends all her time with her family as if she had any other choice. Okay, if you're sick, basically that's all she really could do.
That's true. She was the sweet one. Joe always made a big deal out of the fact that Beth was so kind and was so charitable, was such a great person. And Joe always felt like she was a bad person because she had a bad temper. So both Joe and Amy, however, they search for a sense of individuality before settling down to the customary life that's expected of them. Your individuality refers to your own desire to be your own person. You want to be different from other people. You don't want to be the same as everybody else. You want to be special. I think we all want to be special, and that's your individuality. If you settle down, guys, it just means you get married, you have a stable job, you have a family, you raise your kids. We still use this phrase to settle down to talk about people who get married and start a family.
Yeah, when you're going to settle down? My goodness, you're going from part-time job to part-time job. You're traveling all over the world, and you're almost 30. Don't you think it's about time you settle down, get a job, be responsible, get married, have kids, and stuff like that? And so she's going to settle down to the customary, conventional, traditional life that is expected of you, or for at least that is for Beth and Meg, I guess. But again, Joe and Amy are individualists, and they want to go out and conquer the world and live their life to the fullest. And Alcott's presentation of these models of womanhood isn't to suggest that one is preferable to the others, but rather to illustrate that conformity may have been more realistic for women of the time. So, yeah, she's not saying that one is any better than the other. She's just kind of saying both are okay. It's up to the individual. One is not preferable to the other. If something is preferable, that's the thing that you want more. Well, you know, I'd like to have Chinese food tonight, but Japanese food is more preferable to me. I'd rather have sushi.
Yeah. Well, it's not that. Rather, she's using these examples of these women to illustrate that conformity may have been more realistic for women of the time. A lot of the women didn't have a lot of choices. You either got married or, wow, what were you going to do? You had no money. There's no way to earn a living, no way to earn an income. Now, if you illustrate something, guys, it just means you show how something works. You make it clear by giving some examples. Conformity means following either standards or rules or laws. You do what you're told. You conform. You do exactly what other people are doing. So you accept those standards. And back then, that was really the only thing that women could do. I was shocked when I learned that Alcott never got married. I don't think I knew that as a child when I read her books. So that would have been difficult back then. There wasn't a lot to do. She was a writer, so she had somewhat of an income.
Yeah, I guess that's not so surprising to me because I know so many women who are not married nowadays. It's fairly natural. So I guess at the time that would have been unusual.
Very unusual.
For a woman to stay single her whole life.
Yeah.
To be an old maid, an old spinster, or whatever they used to call them. Now, Alcott then delves even deeper into the world of gender archetypes. Now, remember earlier we mentioned the word stereotype, which is kind of a general definition you have about certain kinds of people, stereotypes about Americans or stereotypes about Italians or something like that. But this is a different word, archetype. Okay, an archetype is kind of like a typical example of a certain person or thing. I could say the Lord of the Rings novels are the archetype of fantasy novels. They're kind of the best example of fantasy novels.
Oh, they sure are. Now, we're going to go ahead and talk more about this stuff, guys, but it's probably a good time to take a break. We're going to listen to our Chinese teacher.
大家好，欢迎收听 English Digest， 我是 Sunny。今天我们要看的是 Unit 14文学单元的第3天课程。前2天我们读了小妇人的故事大意，也认识了作者艾考特的生平。今天我们要看的是这本小说背后的 theme， T-H-E-M-E， 主题。首先我们看到文章一开头就是在介绍 Little Women 这本书。文章怎么描述它呢？他说 Written during the period of first wave feminism， 在第一波女性主义时期所写的。这里用到了分词构句，因为这句的主词跟后面主要子句的主词都是 Little Women 这本书，所以我们可以省略主词和 be 动词，只留下分词，而书是被人写出来的，所以这里才会用表示被动的过去分词 written。 接下来看 first wave feminism， 它指的是什么呢？第一波女性主义其实就是发生在18世纪到19世纪初世界各地的女性主义活动。这个时候的抗争主要 focus 在争取女性在法律上的平等，例如以前女生是没有投票权的，而且也没有权利拥有和继承财产，所以这个时期的女性主义主要是针对两性在法律上的平权。小妇人的作者艾考特就是在这样的历史环境中写下了这本小说，所以我们可以在她的故事里看到不同的女生如何应对社会对她们所设置的框架。不过文章第一段的最后一句却说 Alcott's presentation of these models of womanhood isn't to suggest that one is preferable to the others. 艾考特写出这些女性的故事，并不是要暗示谁比较好。注意一下这里的 suggest， 意思是表明、暗示，后面接一般的 that 子句，跟表示建议的用法不一样，要特别注意哦。suggest 表示建议的时候，后面如果接 that 子句，里面的动词会用 should 再加上原形动词，或是省略 should 直接接原形动词。我们举个例子来比较看看。Current data suggests that there could be life on Mars. 目前的资料显示，火星上可能有生命体。这里的 suggest 是显示的意思，所以后面就接一般的子句。I suggested that my sister get a better job. 我建议妹妹找个比较好的工作。这个时候 suggest 就表示建议，所以 that 子句里就要用原形动词 get， 因为 get 前面省略了助动词 should。
We're going to take a quick break, guys. Stay tuned. We'll be right back to talk more about Little Women.
Okay, let's continue talking about our lesson for today. Where we left off, we were talking about the word archetype, and she delves into the world of gender archetypes. Okay, again, people that represent genders, what the definition of a man is, what the definition of a woman is, the archetypes here, the best examples you can have. And we've got the verb phrase to delve into something. That means you kind of explore a certain subject, you kind of ask questions, and you get answers from different people, and you have different opinions. You kind of explore this particular subject.
Well, she was exploring the idea that not all women desire to live for and by their husband's means. Notice we're saying women's desire to live for their husband and live by their husband's means. Means here just refers to men's financial resources, their money, right? So Jo, she moves to New York, and why does she go? Well, it's not just for work. It's also a way for her to escape from Laurie's affections. Remember, Laurie kind of falls in, well, not kind of. He falls in love with Jo, but Jo's not interested. So we're going to talk about Laurie's affections. She wants to escape from those because she likes Laurie. He's a great friend, and she feels bad that just by seeing her every day, it's breaking his heart. So she leaves for New York, and she's also trying to escape the prospect of an unwanted marriage. I think if she'd stayed, she probably would have been talked into marrying him because, you got to get married. Why not marry a friend? The prospect of something here just means the possibility or likelihood that something's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, what are the prospects of North and South Korea reuniting someday? Yeah, what is the possibility of that? So, yes, indeed, she's kind of sick of him. He's just kind of in love with her. He's smitten with her. And so she kind of wants to avoid him, and she doesn't want to get into an unwanted marriage. And then also we've got Laurie himself. Likewise, similarly, Laurie is a far cry from a typical 19th century man. Okay, so he's not the archetype of a 19th century man. He's a far cry from that. A far cry from something means not at all like something, okay? 差很多, as you would say in Chinese. And for one thing, he chooses a feminine nickname for himself rather than using his more masculine name. So if you know about men of the 19th century, they were all real macho. They had beards. They fought in the Civil War. They had really low voices and stuff like that.
Well, maybe.
And they cut down trees, and they did everything with their bare hands. Well, he's more effeminate here. His nickname is actually a feminine nickname. Feminine means more having to do with ladies. Masculine is the opposite of that. You're very masculine, of course. If you're very strong, you open doors for ladies, and you can cut down trees yourself and drive tractors or whatever. and build bridges or whatever.
Okay, well, for another, Lori also pursues music, which back then was really kind of something that the females were supposed to do. You didn't often see men who knew how to play the piano, but the women would learn how to play the piano so that they could entertain their guests after dinner, things like that. If you pursue something, you follow it, you chase it. And that was sort of a culturally feminine vocation at the time. A vocation is a hobby, not a job. And that shows that it wasn't just women going against convention. Lori was also challenging gender stereotypes. Convention here refers to the way in which something is usually done, especially within a particular activity or area. So as the novel's strongest characters, Joe and Lori, are Alcott's way of demonstrating or showing to us that gender stereotypes should be challenged and that societal change, societal means society, but this is the adjective form, societal change was imminent. If something's imminent, it's just around the corner. It's going to happen pretty soon. Hasn't happened yet, but it's going to be quick around the corner, you could say. So it's about to happen.
Yeah, although women did not get the right to vote until about a half-century later, but at least she got the ball rolling at the time. And Alcott also accentuates the value of virtue over riches. If you accentuate something, well, that's just a fancy way of saying you emphasize that thing. You make it more noticeable, more prominent. And she accentuates or emphasizes the value of virtue over riches. Virtue, of course, is when you have high moral standards, and you should be more virtuous or more moral, and you shouldn't pay so much attention to getting rich. Although nowadays it seems like it's the opposite. Everybody seems to think that getting rich is more important than being moral.
That's so true, Tom. It's sad. But back then in society, people really appreciated folks who were honest and hardworking and told the truth, that didn't lie. Well, Alcott's own impoverished childhood taught her that being happy with one's lot in life is more desirable than endlessly yearning for money or material wealth. If you're impoverished, guys, it just means you're very, very poor. So her dad was a U.S. educator or teacher, but, you know, back then and still today, teachers in the U.S. don't make the most money. I think teachers do better here in Taiwan.
Hopefully they do. Yeah, they deserve
now,
it.
If you talk about your lot in life, it just means your circumstances. And if you're happy with your lot in life, you're happy with your life. You're happy with the circumstances around your life, whatever that might be. If something's desirable, you want it. It's something you really, really want. So she taught us that, you know what, sometimes just being happy with what you have in life is better or more desirable than just constantly or continuously wanting more and more and more money, material wealth.
Yeah, they say that the more you get, the more that you want. I don't know how true that is. I wouldn't know myself because I've never had a lot of wealth myself. So I've been pretty happy with my own lot, making the best of my life and stuff like that, taking pleasure in simple things, stuff like that. And yes, if you've got a lot of greed, you're going to be yearning for more. You got to have that thing. You might yearn for a person, too. I guess Lori yearned for Joe to come back from New York, but she broke his heart, and she ended up marrying somebody else. And also here, it goes on to say, by marrying her characters for love instead of money, Alcott makes it clear that paying attention to one's inner self is much more important than one's personal fortune. So, yeah, Joe ended up marrying a German guy or something, but I guess
Professor Bayer.
He's a professor, though, still. That's better than a ditch digger.
True.
So there's some money there. And, well, I guess they're still not marrying for money so much as they are for love. But yeah, I bet if the German guy was actually a German bushy bond teacher making 200 NT dollars an hour, I think she would have thought again. She would have changed her mind there.
I don't know. Maybe she fell in love with him for other things, you know, besides his means or his money, which would make it more romantic, wouldn't it? So that's kind of the summary of the ideas in this book, Little Women. It's something I would recommend that our readers read because I think one of the best ways to improve your English, guys, is to read because you're reading good sentence patterns. You're learning new words, yes, but you're reading good sentence patterns. And because English grammar is so hard, I think you need as many ways as you can to get used to good grammar. Grammar's tough, I know.
You can also listen to these things.
Sure.
That's what I would do.
Ooh, yeah.
There's such a thing as books on tape, audio recordings of books, and you can not only read the book, but you can hear it as well. I think that would also help improve your speaking and listening ability.
I agree.
So, yeah, you can find lots of audiobooks online. Check it out. It will help you improve your English listening, speaking, writing, reading, whatever ability. Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
文章第二段就以乔和小罗这两个角色来说明他们如何试图挣脱性别框架。这一段的第4句就说了 Likewise, Laurie is a far cry from a typical 19th century man. 小罗和典型的19世纪男性相差甚远。怎么说呢？文章就接着继续说明，一来他帮自己取了一个女性化的绰号，二来他选择了音乐这个被认为是女性的职业。当你要说明一件事情的原因或理由的时候，就可以用到这个很实用的片语 for one thing， 意思是首先其一，它常常搭配 for another 其二来说明第二个理由。例如 I've never been to Europe. For one thing, it's too expensive. For another, I can't take time off from work. 我从来没有去过欧洲，一来是因为太贵了，二来是因为我无法从工作抽身。文章第二段最后一句说到艾考特用乔和小罗这两个角色来论证两件事情，性别刻板印象应该要被质疑，以及社会变迁即将要发生。我们来看一下课文这里的 demonstrating， 它的受词其实有两个 that 子句，分别是 that gender stereotypes should be challenged 以及 that societal change was imminent。 要注意，如果你的动词后面接两个以上的 that 子句的时候，只有第一个 that 可以省略，后面的 that 都要保留哦，不然可能会造成意思不清楚，让别人以为 and 连接的是完整的句子，而不是 that 子句。接着来看文章最后一段，这里说明了艾考特也强调品德比财富更重要，因为他小时候曾经很穷困，所以这让他学会了如何安于自己的命运。我们来看一下这个片语 Happy with one's lot。 Lot 在这里是当名词，意思是命运、际遇，意思就类似 destiny D-E-S-T-I-N-Y。 Lot 当名词的时候还有另外一个很常见的意思，就是抽签的签条。有时候我们没有办法决定哪件事情由谁来做，或是要随机分配的时候，我们就会 draw lots D-R-A-W Draw lots 就是抽签的意思。今天的课程讲解就到这里，谢谢大家收听。
Okay, guys. Well, thanks for joining us for our literature unit. We hope that you learned a lot more about Little Women and Louisa May Alcott. Give it a shot. The other book she's written, of course, is Joe's Boys. You can look into that, too. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.